I used to like really passionately love horses. I used to watch all the movies, get all the action figures, like the toys, like everything. Like I used to think I was a horse. I used to eat like grass and hay and like
That's hilarious.
I used to really embrace like the horse culture.
Welcome back to Off the Mat with Penn State Wrestling. We are on episode 14. I'm your host, Connor Pierce.
And I'm your co-host, Marcus Blaze.
And we have the pleasure of being joined by Tyler Kasak. Tyler, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Connor.
So I wanted to talk to you about growing up on a farm. As long as I've known you, I don't think I've ever dove deep into asking you about this.
Yeah, I feel like it's interesting too because it's been such a big part of my life. Like that's kind of been like what I do in my spare time. And so I mean, I grew up on a farm. My parents have 13 acres, and we've had everything from horses to pigs, beef, goats, chickens. I'm not a huge fan of chickens, but we've pretty much had it all. Yeah, Nate's a big fan of chickens. He's a chicken guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, we started off with horses, and I used to like really passionately love horses. I used to watch all the movies, get all the action figures, like the toys, like everything. Like I used to think I was a horse. I used to eat like grass and hay and like
That's hilarious.
I used to really embrace like the horse culture. And then we eventually got rid of them, and we got some pigs, and then I wanted some goats, and that's kind of where my like passion for farming kind of was, like in the goats and like the livestock. And my grandfather had like a herd of pygmy goats, which is like the smallest goat you can get. They're like teeny, and he had probably had like 10 of them. They were pretty wild, like they weren't friendly at all. And I was like,
You like that?
I was like, well, I want some goats.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, you can have some out there, but you got to catch them. And I was 6. And so I was really little, and long story short, it took me about 2.5 hours to catch 2 goats.
Wow.
Threw them up on the pickup truck, drove them home, and now I got, I probably had like 70 at the most at one point.
Wow.
70.
How many you got right now?
Up here I have around 30. Total, I have about 16 of them that I breed, and so there's a lot. But my dad has the beef. That's kind of his thing. He kind of coincides that with his butcher shop, so he just kind of always has that. I'm a huge fan of beef. I love the beef. They're fun. They're cool. And then so the pigs, I never really got too involved in that, but I always had a passion for goats and like 4-H and FFA and like showing. That aspect has always been intriguing. I think it's rewarding. Like it's kind of the closest thing I've ever done to wrestling. You're kind of just out there by yourself, and it doesn't matter how much hard work you kind of put in there. It's just like you don't perform out there, it's not going to work out. So I don't know. It kind of gives that second energy. And I did it when I was growing up a lot. Probably from like 6th grade-ish all the way kind of going up into high school, and I kind of stopped once high school came too much. Yeah. But yeah.
It's funny seeing like everybody has their thing like outside of wrestling that they relate to wrestling.
Yeah.
Like Levi's hunting and but speaking 4-H and FFA, that's like a foreign language to me. I have no idea.
Yeah, so that's like it's kind of like a club almost. Like it's just a bunch of kids get together. It's really cool. A lot of parents and like volunteer involvement, and it's just like kind of brings the community together, and it's a really good place to be. Like I like going to the meetings and going to the fairs. That's probably my favorite thing, going to the fair over on the other side of the mountain. It's just Grange Fair. Yeah. That's it's probably one of my favorite parts of the year around here. Just
you and Ty Watson.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome. Yeah. It's awesome. I see him there all the time. His brother shows goats, and his sister shows goats and pigs and stuff like that. Yeah, they actually just were over at the farm last night picking out their 4-H projects. So
nice.
So it was cool.
So they buy from you?
Yeah, so they got some from me last year, and they got some from me this year. So yeah, it's been good. They this is the first year I've had goats up that have been bred and born in State College, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And an interesting part, I guess, like how I got goats in State College. Like my freshman year, I lived in the dorm and have goats, and then sophomore year, I kind of was like, going into my sophomore year, I was like, I kind of feel like I need something.
Yeah.
You know, like I feel like a piece of me's missing. And so I was like, my dad was like, dude, go get some goats. Like, go get some goats and start it up. And so I went to the 4-H. Like, after they show them all, the kids have an auction and they sell them all. So like they get to get some money out of like after the whole summer working hard with their projects. And it was a really good event, but they're pretty pricey over there. Like the inflation's pretty crazy for the kids. Those kids get paid well. And anyway, I bought 3 goats there last year, and now we have 30. You know, about a year and a half later.
Where?
So in Center Hall, just literally about 2 minutes from Brothers Pizza. I think it's Lower Brush Valley Road. I think it's just off of. It's kind of nice. It's pretty rural area. Kind of starts to break off from everybody. It's just you can be there by yourself. It's just a nice escape.
Yeah, I thought for some reason up until now, whenever you say like I'll be with the goats, I was thinking that you were going all the way back to Doylestown.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. Well, that was the reason we got some goats up here, is because like I can't have my dad taking care of the goats and be like, you know, they're my goats. So I kind of wanted my own thing, and So, but the goats back home are more of like meat goats. You sell them for slaughter around like holidays and stuff like that. And these ones are kind of like what I've always wanted to do, like show goats.
Yeah.
And
they're pets.
Yeah, like they're more pets. Like they're all really friendly and they're goofy, and they're a little bit more enjoyable. I think like you can kind of dabble in the genetics and stuff like that, and a little bit more. And I like that. I like kind of being able to create my own goat, and I like a certain type of goat, and I kind of want to chase after that as much as I can. And I think it's fun to play that game with like artificial insemination or like IVF or flushes, where like you're basically taking, you know, like sperm and embryos and combining them together and putting them in a different goat, and just like the way you can kind of produce genetics like really rapidly and get a lot of the exact same genetics out of, instead of one goat, you get out of 10 goats.
Well, that's crazy how you can just like almost genetically modify the sucker, right?
Pretty much is what it is. Like a lot of the goats that I have bred this year were bred through an AI program, which is like an artificial insemination, which is like you got to time like it's when it's going to come into heat, so there's an egg actually to receive, and it's pretty interesting. I think, and then you can kind of pick and choose which buck you want to be the stud buck for that particular goat based off of the way that goat looks and the stud buck looks and what you want out of, you know, that particular goat, and you kind of just try and pick apart what you think that goat can improve on, and hopefully, you know, you make the right choice and they come out accordingly. You
were showing me a goat show, and I didn't realize like it's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
And these were like you're scrolling through. One of them's $1,000. The next is $4,000. Then you were saying they go for like $25,000.
Yeah. They range in like prices, and some people just like. There's some farms that people just like their genetics, and that's just their goats just go for higher prices. But a lot of the stuff that factors into that is the genetics. I think for me that's probably the biggest thing I look at is the genetics of the goat, and that kind of just goes down to how well do you know, how involved are you in the kind of goat world, and how much do you know about what farm is what, and who's telling you the truth and who's not. And then the other thing is, you know, you want to look at the goat itself and make sure. You want to look at its structure, its feet, the way how it kind of sets, the way it tracks, and you kind of just want to pick it apart. Like, you kind of want to be like the way I look at it is I kind of want to be like a tough critic, because, you know, I think everything from the udders to the way its head shaped, the way its shoulders. Like, I like a Roman head. I mean, the head's not super important, but I like a Roman head, so I'm always looking for that. And
I don't even know what that means.
It's just like a kind of like a round, more of a rounder head instead of flat, straight down. It's a little bit more round, and that breed that I have kind of is known for that, so I kind of chase after that trait, and just looking for there's certain farms too that will have higher quality goats pretty consistently, so just kind of understanding certain farms have better goats, whether the genetics are there or not. Some farms just feed better, some goats just turn out better. Like you see it all the time, 2 goats with the exact same DNA, same mom, same dad, they just look completely different. And it's kind of interesting. I don't know how that happens, but like just some goats are better than other goats, but it's interesting because you could sell a goat for $20,000, or you could purchase a goat for $20,000, and it doesn't mean you're gonna win. You know, it just means you spent $20,000 on a goat. It doesn't really mean anything. So it's just kind of it's a fun game. I like to keep myself busy with.
So on two opposite ends of the spectrum, what's the most you've ever spent on a goat, and what's the most you ever sold a goat for?
I probably spent more money than I would ever like to spend on goats. I don't know. I spent a lot of money on these things. They kind of add up before you know it. But I think you could sell them for anywhere from, the stuff that I have probably from lower end, a couple hundred to a couple thousand, kind of what they range from. And that's just all the genetics, like I said, and how they come out. Just depends on who it is. Like I have 2 goats right now, one in the same pen, and one looks, they're pretty much top of line genetics. Is two different studs, 2 different good dams, like they're the dams of their moms, and both have great pedigrees, and like one looks like it'll do okay in the county fair, and the other one looks like it'll compete in pretty much anywhere, in any show, any fair out there. And it's just, it's interesting because like you feed them the same thing, they're born in the same place, but the genetics play just a huge role into them.
It's so funny because like you said, when the cameras were off, like it's like a niche inside of a niche. Like I have like all the stuff that you're saying is like just brand new to me, and I'm sure a lot of people watch it too. But just like I mean, I've never even heard of any of this stuff.
Yeah, there's so many sides to it, and kind of like how far you dive down the rabbit hole in like livestock, and then so like you find your animal, and then you kind of find like, okay, do you want meat or dairy? And then I was like, okay, I want meat goats. And then I was like, okay, what kind of meat goats do you want? And then I was like, all right, I want this breed. And then it's like, okay, what do you want to do with this breed? Do you want to use them for meat? Do you want to show them? Like, how do you want to do that? And it's like, I want to do show goats. So it's just like, kind of dove down a rabbit hole of like, ever since I was 6 years old, started there, and then kind of now it's to here. I found kind of what I like and what I think I want to stick with for a long time. So.
So you were talking about your dad does the beef.
Mm.
I've always been curious about like the difference between like corn-fed or grass-fed beef.
Yeah.
And like what that process is like, and like if there's a difference in taste, or because I'm not really sure.
Yeah, there's a huge difference. Like me, just because I see it all the time, I've seen it the whole way. Like I can tell the difference between like grass-fed, one that's finished with grain, all the way to like what a dairy cow tastes like. Like they all kind of have their unique taste and just how they're fed. And in my opinion, I think grain finished is the best way. Like I think that's just the best steak.
Grain finished, what does that mean?
So a lot of feedlot farms, when you get like a feedlot beef and you go to like a grocery store, all your beef are pretty much fed and finished on a feedlot, which just they get just corn and soy, and not my favorite. But the way that like local farmers and stuff like that, like just do it on a smaller scale. Or like the way we do it, we have like a special mix of, there's a little bit of corn, a little bit of soy, but there's a lot of vitamins and minerals more in the feed that or help the animal grow, and not just trying to stuff its belly and get it fat as possible.
Yeah.
So it's just like there's a little bit more of a natural way. Like we're not just dumping corn. We're slowly kind of adding that towards the end of their life, and most of the time they're getting hay and grass. Like all of our beef that we do finish on grain, they have access to hay and grass pretty much their entire life. We don't ever cut them off of that. So they always have that, and like they need that. Like they have their foragers, they need that grass. Like when you just finish them on grain, we just feed them grain, their stomachs can't handle that. That's not in their DNA. They can process that obviously, but that's not how that's not what's best for them.
Yeah.
Like, I think interesting statistic that I read is if all the feedlot beef in America were just on grass for, I think, 4 days, it would reduce the E. coli by 80%.
Really?
Just for 4 days.
So grass-fed is that much more healthy?
Yeah, I think, well, it's just what they need. They're foragers. They forage for grass, and that's what they like, and that's what they eat. Like, you put a cow out on grass, they're just gonna stay there all day, eat grass. You know what I mean? It's not gonna sit there and be like, oh, where's the grain at? You know what I mean? They love their grass, and I think it's in their best interest and the consumer's best interest to feed them grass and hay at all times.
Yeah.
I think when you talk about grass-fed beef, which is just a little bit more leaner, a little bit less fattier, and that's what I like, the fat. I like the fat on my steak. I eat that. I think that's like gold. There's a little bit less of that. You're just gonna get a little bit more leaner, a little bit more heartier piece of meat, which I like that. That's usually what I eat when I'm like cutting weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And kind of dial it back. But when I'm gonna have a steak and enjoy it, there's gonna be fat on it. Oh yeah. Yeah, I love the fat.
I've been on the field and I've been in the training room. I know what it takes to get back stronger. And that's why I'm proud to tell you about PAM Health, the official rehabilitation partner of Penn State Athletics and Penn State football. For more than 20 years, PAM Health has helped people recover from injuries, illness, and surgery with focused physical, occupational, and speech therapy so they can reach their full potential. And in June, PAM Health is opening a new state-of-the-art rehabilitation center near Penn State in the Harrisburg area, serving patients from across the region with excellent care close to home. Whether you're rehabbing from a tough play, a medical setback, or getting back to everyday life, PAM Health is there with you every step of the way. Make sure you guys visit pamhealth.com to learn more.
How often do you breed goats?
So usually, like this year, I'll breed them in the summertime. I think we're doing it in like June or July or something like that. And it'll be like one big thing. So all of them kind of starting to get in the swing of like, you got to give these ones shots and certain things to kind of get them to go into heat. So when they all get bred on the same day, so when they all get bred, they're all ready to get bred. Mm-hmm. And then not all of them take though. Like it's not, when you breed them through these artificial methods, it's not 100%. Not every time they're gonna work. It's about 85% of the time, 90, give or take, depending on who's doing it. But they tend to, if they don't take to it, you just kind of breed them about a month or two later, kind of when they start to cycle back in again. But it's just, you want to breed them and time it for like December, January, November-ish kind of. That's kind of when most people are having their babies for these kind of spring, summer, fall shows. And that's kind of across the board, across the country. That's kind of seems like the trend.
So traditionally you show like the younger goats?
Yeah, you want to show them, so like they're born, right? You have them for 3 months, you wean them off the mom. About 2 to 3 months, they can eat and drink and kind of live life on their own. And then that's when the next phase, kind of like, that's when you get to, someone purchases them, and then they start showing them about 5 to 6 months old, and they'll show them, some people will only show them like maybe once or whatever, but some people show them all the way like the state fair where they're about, you know, like 8 months to
just
a year.
Just the same goat?
Yeah, same goat. They'll keep the same goat and be about a year old, 8 months to a year. And it just kind of ranges from certain shows have certain rules or certain classes, and it's like wrestling. There's weight classes and divisions, and it's kind of similar but very different.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How do you show a goat? Like, what's the process of that?
Yeah, so I think probably the two hardest animals to show are a beef and a goat because they just require a lot of work. Beef is the hardest thing to show. I mean, whatever, you know, at 2,000 pounds, whatever that beef wants to do is whatever's going to happen. So it's very important to have a really good relationship with your beef. But showing a goat's pretty simple. You usually have like a chain halter. And then you walk around the ring. You kind of have the goat sandwiched between you, the goat, and then the judge. And you want to make eye contact with the judge. And it's a lot of like showing goats. What I like about it is like there's a lot of respect in it. Like, you know, you want to, everyone's shaking hands, everyone's being polite, everyone has good attitude, and I kind of like that side of it. And you'll get docked if you're not, you know, looking at the judge or being present. And so it's important to make sure you have your eye contact, make sure you're there, and then you want to, when you present the goat, because they're obviously meat goats, we're looking at the muscles and seeing what kind of muscles and how the structure is and how well the structure and muscles kind of work together. You basically pick its head up and push into the goat's front chest, like the front part of it, with your leg, and kind of push into it, and the goat will push back and kind of flex, and it'll tensen up. And then you kind of just hold it there, and then the judge will kind of look at them, come down the line, feel them from their shoulder all the way kind of to like almost where their tail's at. And then, yeah, they make their decision. They kind of do that as many times as the judge wants to. And the judge kind of comes to the decision, tells you kind of, you go here, and then when he goes to pick the last one, it kind of gets exciting, and whoever wins, everyone's cheering. It's crazy. Like,
this is fun. This is such like foreign language to Marcus and I, freaking city boys.
Yeah.
I've like heard of people, like my cousin shows horses, but like I don't like understand like what that was, but yeah, that's cool though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the judges will like feel them like that.
Yeah, so they won't like just touch them. So they'll like kind of like squeeze them a little bit and see how stiff they are, how firm they are, how much muscle they actually have there. Because a goat can look like it has it, it could just be fat, or it could, you know what I mean? It could just be just really fat goat. And so they're just trying to figure out, exactly what they're looking at when they're doing that. And so they'll look all around it and kind of look at the structure of its like how its hocks are, so like basically the back end of its feet, like how if they're turned in or out, like you want them straight and square, and so you get like lose points on that, and like the judges are really kind of like trying to just basically nitpick at what goats are the best and which ones aren't, and just sometimes the smallest things. Yeah. Sometimes the judge can't even figure out like these two goats are pretty much, I can't make a decision. So it'll come down to, it's called showmanship. And it's like how well you showed the goat, how well you handled the goat, how much you know about goats. Yeah.
That's cool.
So that's like almost like the overtime.
Yeah, yeah.
And
have you ever got to overtime?
Nate actually got to overtime last year.
Showing a goat?
Yeah, and I don't think he got the question right. And being completely honest, so I don't think he took second in his showmanship class, so I think that was the reason too.
But Nate's more chickens, right?
Nate's like, back home he's got his chicken farm and he's got like Eggs by Nate, and he's up here so much that he's just kind of joined, like he just does 4-H now basically. Like he's got chickens and that's his thing, but he's showing pigs, rabbits, and goats, and I don't know. That's kind of his little thing, and they have like a little group with like them and the Watsons and a family called with the Andersons, what their last name is. And they all kind of come together at one barn, and they all have their animals there. So like when you go to take care of them every day, it's not like just you. You got like a group of people.
Yeah, and like you know which animals are yours.
Yeah, you got your animals there, and you know which one's yours, and then you got your friends' animals there, and it's just fun. It just makes it more enjoyable when you. Instead of just doing it with your family, you got like 3 other families that are like-minded, and you just like spending time with, and it makes for a lot more fun in the summertime, because that's what it's all about. I think is just having the most fun you can, even though there's a winner and a loser. Obviously, you want to have fun.
Yeah.
So I think he does a good job of doing that.
So outside of growing up on a farm and showing goats and cows and all the pretty stuff, like what other hobbies did you do outside of wrestling?
I feel like I did a lot of fishing. I think that was like my biggest. I spent most of my free time going, like my summers, like me and my buddy in high school and middle school, like we would just go fishing all the time. From neighborhood ponds to, streams, rivers, ocean. Not too much in the ocean, but I mean we caught a lot of bass and crappie. I think that was like the thing growing up. Like me and my friends, we would do challenges like in high school. 2 of my buddies, one of them actually goes to Harvard. His name's Evan. We did like a 12-hour fishing challenge. Like how many fish can we catch in 12 hours? We caught like 100 and some fish. Wow. And then we ended up having like a fish fry at the end of the night with these like crappie. And we did them in Chick-fil-A sauce, dude. It was like the best thing ever. It was so fulfilling. And so I always did that. That's kind of been my dad's thing, because he's got a butcher shop and he's seen a million dead deer and he doesn't really care. They're just animals, at the end of the day. But fish that's a little bit different. And so he's always seemed to like that more, and he's always done that a lot more than hunting. So I've kind of naturally just kind of done that with him. Yeah. And I think he kind of got me into it, and then now Nate's getting into it, and Nate's just got some silly luck, man. Like he really does. Like with fish, like he catches.
I always hear that.
He has some really good luck with some big fish. Like for whatever reason, like. They just find his lure a lot. But that's how I spent pretty much 90% of my summertime. Yeah. Just going to ponds, going to the lake, catching catfish on the river. It's just the best times. Like some of the best times of my life is just hanging out, just catching fish.
Yeah, I got to take you up. We'll go fishing with Van D.
Yeah, I'd be talking to him all the time, like, yo, Van D, let's catch some walleye. Let's do this. Yeah. All right, Van D, let's see it, bro.
So then outside of your main hobbies, you did a little bit of wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did do a little bit of wrestling. I think all of that stuff is interesting, like the fishing and the hunting and the goats, like that all kind of helps me with wrestling. Like all that stuff kind of brings it together, and like it's like an escape. Like I always think like wrestling's so demanding physically, mentally, emotionally. It's just kind of like, you look on social media sometimes, you're just like, wow, like this is ridiculous, and like there's just so it feels like sometimes just always down your throat, and it's just like you can go to a goat barn and those goats don't care. You can go catch fish and they don't care. Like you know what I mean? So it's just I like having avenues in my life that I can just go and do that. But yeah.
So what club did you like? What was your journey through clubs throughout like youth and high school?
Yeah, I started. Well, I'm not exactly sure exactly how I started wrestling, but it was kind of a mixture of like my dad's buddies like, hey, listen, we got to get him into wrestling. He's a little wild man. Like we got to get him into wrestling. And then I went to my first ever practice at Storm Wrestling Club. It was like a Dark Knights kind of mixture, and my coach was Van. He's a man. Those kids. We would work hard. Like that was like a tough, like nitty gritty, like down the dirt, like fist fight type of club. And I showed up to my first practice in literally like socks, and I was really mad at my mom. I was like, dude, I need shoes and headgear right now. So we went to Schuylkill Valley Sports right next door.
Nice.
Got some shoes, and that club actually turned out like some really good guys went there. Like Sasso, both the Sassos would be there, and several like Division I. Yeah, like those guys were always there, and turned out a lot of Division I guys, even all the way from like Arizona State, Penn State, Ohio, like Bucknell. Just a bunch of good guys actually came out of there, which is funny because that was like the first place I ever started. Yeah. And like we're all like just kids out there.
Yeah.
And but then I went to Central Bucks Raiders. I think that was kind of the next transition, which is more of like a local like team league kind of a thing. And then I started to kind of pick up wrestling a little bit, kind of started to figure it out. And then I went from there to a club called Red Hawk.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is probably where I made the biggest jumps in my wrestling at that point in time.
Desmond was involved with that too, right?
Yeah, so it was actually Desmond's uncle, right? Yeah. Seth Jasuli. I'll say it, and I think my dad will vouch for me too, is like he's probably like the best middle school type of coach that you could ever, elementary school type of coach. Like just really patient, really, Coach Mark obviously too, but really patient, just really good system of technique, and like, I don't know, I feel like that's where I was able to actually understand wrestling and then really learn to love wrestling. And then started to get a little bit better there, started to find like, some success with the Tulsa tournaments and the state tournaments, and then M2 started, and kind of made it up here as much as I could. Like my dad and I would drive up in the morning on like a Sunday. We'd get a one-on-one in. We go to this taco place that we went to it so many times, like throughout middle school and high school, that I like literally could not eat it. Yeah. And then
who would you do one-on-ones with?
Mark. It'd be me and Mark in there. Yeah. And we used to be working on some technique, and like sometimes it'd be like there'd be another guy in there. Like one time I think I wrestled Roman in there, and like I remember wrestling Roman and getting done that because it was just me in there. Like it was like my dad dropped me off, and it was just me and Roman, and basically it was like a lamb getting fed to the wolves. Yeah. And I remember walking out of there, I was like, man, like I don't know if college is for me. Like, damn, like I got whooped. Yeah. And it was cool. Like you could get experiences like that. I wrestled Nick Lee there one time. Thought the exact same thing. It was like just top and bottom, and like he rode me like a dog, dude. Like I could not stand up. I couldn't do nothing. And I thought the same thing again. I was like, man, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I might have to be a farmer or something. So Coach Mark definitely helped me a lot. I think just like from the technical and like a mental standpoint, like I think Coach Mark has just been like we've been able to form like a really close relationship. Like now we're basically like buddies now, and like now we're at the point, or on the flip side of it, where now we're trying to get Nate to be in the same shoes we're at. So it's kind of cool that we have a relationship like that where I can kind of see how he was coaching me through Nate and what Nate does, and how he, when Nate goofs off, I get to hear about it, and when Nate's doing great, I get to hear about it. So it's like it's cool, and it helps me help him. Obviously, like that's the end goal, is just want to help him out, and it's really great to have like that relationship with Mark formed through the countless years of middle school, high school, and now in college, and just going to all these different tournaments. And it's just been a great relationship. And it's interesting, like at those tournaments, like any big tournament, or when there's a lot of people and it's really loud, I can like almost never hear anybody talk, but I can always pick out Mark's voice.
Yeah.
Like always hear him. Like no matter what it is, like no matter how loud it is, I always hear him. Like I remember at the World Championships, he was like, "The center's yours, the center's yours." Like that's your center. Like the whole time he was yelling it. And, like I would hear C-Rob. He was the other guy. I would just see him like voicing and like yelling. I just like can't hear anything he's saying.
Only Mark.
Yeah, but it was pretty. He's been pretty impactful. Just with like my growth as just a person.
Yeah.
Not just as like a wrestler, which is pretty cool. And I think Seth did pretty similar job of like helping me grow. I think those guys have really helped me, and along with like high school too. I think like wrestling for Bethlehem Catholic, that kind of culture over there and that environment was pretty cool, because I feel like it's the Penn State of like Pennsylvania at the time when I was there. Like we were winning a lot of state titles and we're having a lot of success, and so it was just cool to kind of be a part of something like that and just have like just great partners and a team with a good mentality of like, okay, like we want to win and like we want to succeed. We want to win these state tournaments, and so it was cool. It was good to have that, but I think Mark's impact has just been like second to none. I think I don't want to give him all the credit, but he definitely gets a lot of credit for sure.
Yeah, Bethlehem Catholic and Harbor Creek, the Penn States of Pennsylvania.
Pretty much, yeah.
But when we were wrestling at the Ultimate Club Duels, we were wrestled in a match at that time, and we were talking about like, because I had just committed to Penn State, and then you hadn't committed yet, but you were talking about, you're like, yeah, I mean, I'm going on this visit and this visit, but you gave me a look and like, kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna end up going to Penn State.
Yeah.
And then we talked about being teammates, and then fast forward a little bit, you ended up skipping your senior year to just train at Penn State.
Yeah, that was like a really quick decision, because it was like throughout the recruiting process, it was like my dad was like, let's keep an open like mind and let's see what everyone has to say. Obviously, like you have the connection with M2, and you obviously like Penn State, and so like kind of went through that recruiting process, and it was just always in the back of my head, like, Penn State, Penn State, Penn State. And so making that decision was pretty easy. But once we committed, it was like, all right, like, what's next? And so we kind of came to the conclusion, it was like, I'm not going to be a four-timer in anything, but I've kind of won everything once. Yeah. So I kind of already went to all the tournaments and I committed to where I want to go. I feel like, I went to the World Championships. I had that under my belt, so it was like, okay, let's start getting ready for college. Like, let's start getting ready for what we're actually started wrestling for. The end goal, win a national title and multiple at that. So it's just that was kind of what went in the decision. It was like, all right, like let's redshirt this year. This is our redshirt year. We're gonna come in hot and go smoke some dudes. And I think that year was like, I needed that year to kind of figure out, living a little bit on my own, kind of like figuring out what life is like that, and also like just like wrestling in college and that grind, and like learned what the Versa Climber was and like all that stuff. So it was really good. And then you just hit those open tournaments, and when you have guys like Nick Lee and Levi that have done it before you, and you kind of just see what they're doing, it just made so much sense to kind of just do that. And I feel like me and Levi were on a similar track of kind of like we both had won some notable tournaments and performed, and we kind of were where we wanted to be, and so committing and then not wrestling the senior year it just made the most sense. Yeah,
I for some reason just thought of like when you're talking about going to the open tournaments, you and I both wrestling at the Edinburgh Open, and you missing your match. I mean, you took what, 6th place at the Edinburgh Open?
Actually, I didn't even place at the Edinburgh Open. I didn't even place at the Edinburgh. I took a loss in the second round, I want to say.
Yeah, we both lost to the same guy.
Yeah, that Minnesota kid.
Yeah.
I actually wrestled him.
At Big Tens?
No, I wrestled my first match maybe I wrestled my Big Tens, but I wrestled my first match after I lost at Nationals. And I was like, I whooped his butt then. I was mad.
Yeah.
I was mad. So.
Block us? Drew Roberts?
Oh.
Yeah, that was his name.
Drew Roberts.
Yeah, he's tough.
He's good.
Tough. But, Yeah, no, that tournament was funny because I lost that one. And then Russ was like one after that, and then Mark was like, he's like, you got a long time till we're up, and like my mom packed like this big cooler of like a bunch of good food.
Yeah.
And like me, Sean, everyone was chowing down. Like we're all just eating, and we're chilling. And my mom was like, text Mark, and she's like, is Tyler okay? And he's like, yeah, he's right next to me. Why? She's like, well, he just forfeited his match. Like Mark's like, oh my God. Yeah. So I didn't even place at the Edinburgh Open. So that was a little bit disappointing.
And then, so that was at 149, and then the next year you were just trying to go down to 141.
Yeah, we started the year off 41. I think that was pretty ignorant to think that I could just make that for a whole year. But the struggle was definitely there. And then after Shane ended up getting hurt, and the spot kind of just opened up, and it made sense. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to cut any more weight anyway. So it just kind of happened really, really quick. And I was like, okay, like I guess I'm redshirting to like, all right, here we go. Like, let's go get him. And that was a pretty cool thing to be able to go walk out there and know that I'm gonna go out and wrestle for national title, or we're gonna go compete for Big Ten championships and stuff like that. It's cool kind of knowing that everything we kind of been saying, or kind of the plans kind of coming together. And so that was just kind of a cool thing to work out, Yeah. So.
Yeah. Well, appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yep. And we'll see you guys next time.